This is Chapter 12, Part 1, the final chapter of the textbook. This chapter will be broken into 4 parts. We're talking about interpersonal power and influence. Part 1 is the principles of power and influence. First of all, we need to define what power is. Power is the ability of one person to influence what another person thinks or does. We're going to use this term over and over again throughout this chapter and all of the videos, so make sure that you understand what power is. It's understood, at least in our culture, that some people are more powerful than others. That means that power is asymmetrical. Now, under law, under anything that matters in a court of law, basically, power is distributed equally. Voting rights, access to education, access to legal representation. Our Constitution dictates that those things are all equal. However, we know that not all power is equally distributed. Some people are born into wealth, others into poverty, or anywhere in between. Some are given more opportunities than others by their families, by their economic status, by their choices that they make. So, power is distributed asymmetrically. Meaning that one person will have more power and another one will have less. Then there's this idea, of course, of social media power. That's how much influence somebody has on social media. And there's various ways to look at that, look at its impacts, and measure it. Something that is often overlooked is the fact that power can be shared. Some would argue that if you have power, you should never share it because it makes you less powerful. But others say that if you share the power that you have, it actually helps make you more powerful in that scenario because it makes you kind of a benevolent person, and then you still gain more respect from sharing what power you have. But some methods for raising other people's power or sharing your power with them is to raise someone's self-esteem, compliment them, build them up. Also, just be an open, positive, empathetic, and supportive person. These are what we would call immediate behaviors, bringing people closer to you, whether that's physically or it's more relationally through the word choices that you make. And then share the skills that you have with others, teach them, and also include people in decision making. These are all things that can help boost others' power and can bring about an overall more satisfactory environment. Our power in any scenario can be increased or decreased. If we're not talking about something like financial gain or academic prowess, we may be talking about skills and abilities that people have. So the ability to negotiate yourself more power may be important. And another thing that we can do is this is a more superficial increase of power, but it's called power priming. And this is where you think about a time that you were particularly powerful, and that put you on top of someone else in a negotiation, in the workplace, in an argument. And so you think about those things, and it actually makes you feel more powerful, at least momentarily. And there's a lot of things that can also decrease our power. Empty threats is the only one here on the slide, but also failing to assert dominance, having people that don't listen to you. There are a variety of things that to the outside observer can make us less powerful in their eyes if they see it happening with us. The last slide of this presentation here We have just a few other comments. Power follows the principle of less interest. In a nutshell, people have more power in a relationship whenever they are less interested in the other party, less invested, and thus they're less controlled, meaning that they have more power over that person. So if you have a dominant and a submissive couple or partners within a relationship, then the one that's more powerful is the one that feels like they could do without the other. The one that's less powerful is the one that really wants to be in that relationship. Power generates privilege. And that should kind of go even without saying. Whenever you have power, you have opportunities that people without power don't. And so there's a privilege that comes along with that. And of course, power is influenced by culture, as are most things. From culture to culture, there are differing interpretations about norms as far as understanding the power dynamic in some cultures, seeing major differences in social class and how much power they have to influence things, it's accepted. So, whereas in the United States, everyone has an equal say with their vote, and some cultures that value more power distance, the upper class might get to vote, whereas the lower class would not. And that would be acceptable in that type of a culture. Now, I'm not going to point to a particular culture that is that way. This is just an example. So, from culture to culture, power is seen differently, and there are different accepted values and norms. And when you travel abroad, that is something that you may encounter, and it may be unpleasant for you, but it is something that you'll need to adapt to if you're in someone else's culture.